Vic slumped forward, the business end of a giant Indian vulture sunk deep into his back. His lips were still moving. I put my ear close to his mouth. And tell Chris, I've had it too, for ages. It's immune. It's Pauline who... He'd gone. The case was getting difficult. It was time to use my superpowers. It's a little-known fact about me, but I'm in fact a member of the League of Pointless Superheroes. This is a gang of superheroes including Cake Woman, a woman who has the power to turn herself into a slice of Battenberg. We also number amongst our ranks Rent Boy, who, after an horrendous accident with a nuclear reactor in the Chelmsford branch of Topshop, can now, by mind power alone, tear people's trousers below the knee. Also, we have Gasman, a man who has the incredible superpower to walk the streets with a nice clipboard and say, "Morning." But remember, kids, although Superman can fly, you can't. Not unless you take a lot of drugs. Yeah, superpowers. I am Street Man. Now, a lot of poets and a lot of philosophers have chewed the fat a fair amount trying to work out what it's all about. They look at nature, they look at religion, they look at science, they look at art, and what do they find? More confusion, because, let's face it, they're looking in the wrong places. Because when it comes to the bottom line, there's only one place anybody's going to get their act together. Look out your window. Look under your feet. What do you see? Yeah, that's right. The street. I'm talking about the street. Now, I can't tell a daffodil from an elm tree, me. I don't know my Descartes from my Kant, my Krishna from my Karma. But there's one thing I know about. The street. I was born there, see. The street was my mother and my father, my school, my church, my institute of higher education. It would have been my trousers, except I couldn't find anywhere to put my keys. And if you're talking about the street, you're not talking about A Street. You're talking about D Street. You're talking about Stoke Newington High Street. You see, me and Chris, we were both brought up in Stoke Newington. It's a bond that can never be broken. So all this stuff about Judith and this itch, fungus infection or whatever, well, it's just that he relies on me. It's closer than family, though, what me and Chris have got. I remember at Grosvenor Square in '68, we were there, me and Chris, side by side, chanting, doing all we could to get the Yanks out of Vietnam, me and Chris, chanting. And then this pig on a police horse comes over. We were running, right, you know, thousands of us running all together, surging. And this pig on a police horse comes over. It only took a nudge. He made his horse nudge Chris, and Chris was off balance, and he fell. Chris fell. I grabbed for him, but it was too late. He just fell and hit his head on somebody's old Holborn tin, and he was lying there in the gutter, Chris, and I just kneeled there, and I was shouting his name, Chris. I said, Chris, and I picked him up bodily, you know, his body was lying limp in my arms, and there was blood on his head, and it was running all over my grandad vest, and I was just walking anywhere, carrying Chris, you know, swearing at the pigs. This is Chris, I was saying, Chris. And this fella comes over, you know, one of our lot, and he says, is he hurt? And I couldn't say nothing, you know, and then this fella says, can I give you a hand, you know, carry him? And he tried to grab one of Chris's legs, and I screamed, leave him, I said. And then I said, I can remember it to this day. I said, he ain't heavy. He's my brother.
Alexei?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Only it's a comedy record. Can we have more jokes and less pathos?
Sorry, it just means a lot, that's all.
Yeah, I understand.
You know, you go through all that with somebody and then they move in with you. And they put a fucking big scratch on your style council at Paris EP. I went back to the office. I'd been only there a second when Big Ralph burst in. Hello, John. I've just come to inquire if you'd heard anything about my badgie. Knock it on the head, do what I should go. I'll come to the point straight away, Mr. R, I chimed. What's all this I hear about you and the fish people? Sodding noisy in here, innit, John? I don't know nothing about no fish people, straight. And I paid you to find out who killed my badgie, Alderman. Have you got any results? You killed your budgie, Mr. R, I pronged. You killed him because he knew too much about your dealings with the fish people. You paid me to find him merely to divert suspicion from yourself. Well, Ralphie boy, I suspected you from the start. Your name's in the frame, and the concertinas are playing Sleepy Time in Catford, big boy. You're sort of all the same. Scum. Nothing but scum. I hate hospitals, don't you? Especially with the cuts, you know. mean, if you want major surgery these days, you have to go to the meat counter at Tesco's. I was sharing a freezer compartment with 300 lamb chops and a man with a bad case of foot and mouth. At first, I thought it was the night nurse. It can give you hallucinations, you know, if you drink it with old Gruppenführer lager urine sample. A shadowy figure approached my bed in the middle of the night, but then I realised it couldn't be the night nurse. Night nurses rarely, if ever, have webbed feet. The figure approached, said not a word, pinned a note to my saline drip and left. By morning, I was dead.
Sorry, Alexei, but you can't have been dead.
Why not?
'Cause you're obviously still here, aren't you? Telling this story.
Oh, for fuck's sake, haven't you got any conception at all of experimental narrative technique? I mean, verse, novels, plays have been monkeying about with the point of view for the last 100 years. I mean, where have you been, eh? Don't you read nothing?
There's no need to humiliate me just 'cause I did science.
Well, take it from me. It's perfectly valid in most modern literary forms to have the narrator as a dead person.
Well, it seems daft to me. It doesn't make sense.
Well, it might not make logical sense, but poetically it's crystal. I mean, anyway, I could be a ghost.
Now you're just being patronising. It's not fair. Anyway, I've not been well lately. I've got this itch.
What? You mean like Chris's itch? You know, an itch?
Yeah.
Well, I warned you. I told you to leave Judith alone, didn't I? But would you listen?
Anyway, it's done now. I've got it, and it's irritating. So I'd rather you didn't monkey around with the narrative form too much. It doesn't help.
Okay. Point taken. You win. Let's just get on with it. I wasn't dead in the morning after all. Only for a minute. Well, they give me the kiss of life and a bit of open heart surgery, and I was all right. Okay? Satisfied?
Yeah, thank you.
I unpinned the note which had been tied to my bed. A single sheet of paper. The words made me gasp.
Dear Mr. Sayle, copies of this letter have been sent to all key personnel, including heads of state, captains of industry, media executives, and top community detectives such as yourself. These are our demands. Establishment of a 12-mile fishing limit centred on Swindon. Immediate capture of the running dog jackal Captain Beartie to be delivered into our custody for immediate trial and summary execution. Fairer representation of fish and Piscean interests in the media. If these demands are not met within the next 48 hours, reprisals of a thermonuclear nature will ensue. There is nothing you can do to stop us. Hope all is well with you and the children. Fondest regards, the red herring revolutionary faction of the fish people.
Saab Hatchback, Colt and Honda, Granada Civic Morgan and Marina, Reliant, Escort and Estrada, Jacob Skoda Esther and the Astra. I'm going to take...
Okay, welcome back to Radio Milton Springteen. And first, an apology. Last week, I said, here's a man with an egg on his head. When, of course, I should have said, here's Alexei, Sayle, community detective.
I've always had doubts. I never believed in Einstein. If time and space are all relatives, why didn't they come to my birthday party? I told Charles about my discovery at playtime. Mr. Fowles had told me that I shouldn't talk to Charles anymore, but I did. Mr. Fowles didn't like Charles because Charles wasn't real. Mr. Fowles said Charles only lived in my imagination, but I didn't care. None of the other kids would play with me because of me funny thumbs, so I played with Charles. Charles was captain of the school football team, and if I was nice to him, he'd sometimes let me cut up oranges at half-time. He had an Action Man set, with the high heels and everything. But he wouldn't let me play with it. Sometimes he used to lock me in the outside lav and hit me legs with a stick under the door and shout, "You've got funny thumbs, you've got funny thumbs." Then, of course, puberty happened and suddenly Charles wasn't enough. So I made up Sarah. On summer evenings, me and Sarah would go for long walks over the tip and we'd talk about our dreams, our aspirations. In the end, of course, the inevitable happened. Sarah met Charles. The attraction was instant. They fell in love, married and moved to a different part of Margate, and I never saw either of them again. Mr. Fowles said it was for the best. It was best that I shouldn't have imaginary friends anymore, ever. So don't tell him about Andrew.
Alexei, call on line 3.
Okay, put him on.
Hey, Alexei, man, it's Chris.
Oh, fuck, I told you not to phone me at work.